Okay, first things first, let's take a look at the route that we're actually going to take, or at the route that we're going to look at. So I'll have all the links in the description below, of course, but just want to do a quick overview here. So here's the original route that I found on AllTrails, Ehrwald Alm, Zugspitze, starting at Ehrwald. And just to highlight here, so the original route really starts somewhere here in Ehrwald. Looks like there's a number of parking spots, and it then goes through the Ehrwald Alm, Brent Alm, as well as the Gangofne Hütte. Now, the only difference so far, which you'll see here in a second, is that I started here at the Brent Alm. I did not start at Ehrwald. Now, regardless, everything else is going to be the same. We basically follow the same path going east and then going north, going through the Knorrhütte and up to the Münchner House. And one thing that you'll also see in a second is that here I end up taking the Tyrolean Zugspitzbahn back down to Ehrwald. And unfortunately then, of course, you still have to get back to where you parked. So whether you parked in Ehrwald or as I did in the Brent Alm, you still have to traverse this distance, or maybe there's a bus, maybe there's something similar to take you there, but just kind of letting you know that that's the situation. So this is my activity. This is what it looks like. Again, no big differences. The only difference is that my starting point is the Brent Alm right here. I parked, and you can see that this is actually like a huge parking lot. It's under construction right now a little bit, but the parking spaces are still free, basically, and the Alm is really the only thing under construction. So I follow the same exact path, and eventually I go through all the huts. I get up to Münchner House, Zugspitze. Here's a little photo of the peak, of course, that I made when I was up there, and some other photos along the way. And this long straight line corresponding to this deep sudden descent here is basically me getting on the cable car and riding it down to the base. And afterwards, I basically just, yeah, walked back to the car. It was a very beautiful walk for what it's worth. So don't be put off by that. But I will admit I was pretty tired by the time I got back down here. So I was quite eager to get back to my car. But nevertheless, there was going south here, there was just amazing views of all these peaks down here. And I think it was completely time well spent. So absolutely would recommend. Okay, now the last thing that I wanted to look at is my Garmin data, just to give you some information about the trip as I did it. Now, let's take a look here. So first things first, the round trip was 21.1 kilometers in distance. Nutrition and hydration, we can just ignore this because I honestly think Garmin's making a lot of that stuff up, but I could be wrong. Sorry, Garmin, if you're watching this video, I could be completely wrong. It's just my kind of observation. Anyway, training effect, who cares? That's irrelevant. Heart rate, also irrelevant. Now, timing. This is what I think is important. So my total activity time was 6 hours and a half, essentially, and my moving time was 4 hours and 36 minutes. What's the difference there? So Obviously, I stopped to take some breaks, to take photos, to put on my harness, take off my jacket, put on my jacket, eat, stuff like that. And it essentially amounted to roughly a little less than 2 hours. And last thing here that we see is the elapsed time. Now, this includes absolutely everything, like from the moment I pressed go on my Garmin to the moment that I ended the activity. So, all the time I spent at the peak, all the time I spent in the cable car, all the time I spent waiting for the cable car, and basically I've tried to think of other things that could have filled this, but mostly I think it's the cable car and the peak. So that's that. Now, again, this is really just personal to me. I'm not saying that this is kind of a standard or anything that you should expect. The guidebooks usually say plan for 7 to 8 hours. I'm not really sure if they're including cable car waiting times or anything like that. I think they are just counting from the base to the top. So take that as you will. But I just kind of wanted to share my data for reference. And some other interesting things here, I think, is just the elevation. So ascent, 2,200 meters. Descent, only about 600. I mean, the cable car handled most of the descent, and my Garmin was not on during that point. So it's a good amount of climbing, I will say. So challenging, definitely doable, not impossible. The peak was full of all kinds of people, young, old, athletic, non-athletic, just everybody. It was really cool to see so many different kinds of people up there, and I'm sure that everybody got up there at their own speed, at their own pace. So anyway, that's all I wanted to share there. Just again, point of reference, not a standard, not an expectation. Just wanted to let you know based on the video that you're about to see what it took for me. So now with that out of the way, we know the route, we know what we're getting into. Let's take a look at it.
Well, here we go. Start of the Ehrwald Zugspitze trail. And it looks a bit more like a construction site than a hiking trail, which I'm not super stoked about, but I'm kind of really hoping that soon we disappear into the trees and the mountains and get away from whatever this is, construction and all that crap. So hopefully that's coming soon. I don't know. Let's check it out. Worst case though, we got some beautiful panorama views of the mountains and the forest, so it's not all bad, right? Could be worse. Could be worse. Could be back in the city or something. That would suck. Positive note, sun is also coming out and it looks absolutely beautiful. Weather's also warming up just a little bit, so taking the liberty of going down to my t-shirt layer and honestly just enjoying the steepness. This is a pretty steep route, but you know what, keeps you warm, so no complaints there. And I'm really excited to get some sunshine on my face here pretty soon, hopefully as soon as I cross this cow barrier. At least I think it's a cow barrier. Maybe it's a cow and bike barrier, I don't know. Honestly, I've been living here for a while and hiking here for that whole time, and I've never quite figured out exactly who those little barriers are supposed to keep out. Because sometimes, I'm pretty sure it's cows, but sometimes I kind of feel like they try to keep mountain bikers out. And of course, most dedicated mountain bikers are just gonna pick up their bike and carry it over that tiny little thing. But I don't know, I think maybe it's the thought that counts in this case. I don't know. Well, we're on the right path, which is good. The Ehrwalder Alm is going to be the first stop, maybe not the first stop, but I guess it's the major stop on the way up this route. And from what I've heard, you can, refill water, maybe get something to eat, take a little break if you want to on your way up to Zugspitze. And right now, honestly, the area looks a little bit deserted, which is great. I mean, from my perspective at least. So we're about 50 meters from the Ehrwalder Alm, and I don't know if you folks can see that view in front of me, especially that mist that's hovering down over Ehrwald, but it's just beautiful, and the sun's coming up, so I think that mist is probably gonna disappear pretty shortly. But in the meantime, it looks like something out of a video game or a movie. It's super pretty. Oh, it looks like a really cozy place, honestly. Would be lovely to stop there for a beer or a bite to eat. But it's probably a little bit too early. Probably not open. Not to mention that I definitely can't put anything else in my stomach. Breakfast does not really agree with me, which is not the best thing for somebody that likes hiking, climbing, mountaineering, and a whole load of other things that make you wake up super duper early. So anyway, yeah, this is a nice rest spot. So if you start down at Ehrwald like I did, depending on where you park the car, you might be a little bit tired by the time you get here. I didn't start that deep in Ehrwald, actually. I started at the Brent Alm, which is not on the sign, otherwise I would tell you how far away it is. But long story short, I've only been walking, looks like 3K to get here. I don't know how much climbing I've done, but it's not a lot. So personally, I'm not too tired, but if I'd parked my car where the cable car is gonna spit us out later, which might have been smarter, but if I had done that, I think by the time that I would have gotten here, it would have been maybe around 9 or 10K of walking. So at that point, maybe a snack's justified, you know, up to you. I would say it is, though. I mean, you can decide for yourself. But anyway, so if you choose to do that, just keep in mind, by the time you get here, you might be able to enjoy a really nice coffee, crepe, Kaiserschmarrn, I don't know, whatever you're into. So yeah, that's another option for your itinerary if you take this route. All right, say goodbye to Ehrwalder Alm and keep on going. So ended up finding what I'm pretty sure is the path on account of all this gravel and stuff. It's very, very steep, that's for sure. And I'm not the biggest fan of gravel just because, I don't know, it's best case scenario, it gets in your shoes. Worst case scenario, going down, it's very slippery, and going up, it's also slippery. And I just really, really don't enjoy hiking on gravel personally, but yeah, I think this is the path, and now we've got an even better view of that mist on top of Ehrwald. It really, really looks pretty, and the sun is still coming out. Kind of wish it would hurry up just a little bit because it's getting a little chilly. And I got my wish. The sunshine is right in my face. Sunglasses and hat are on right now because it is blinding me, and I actually really hope that when this recording comes out that something will be visible because the sun is right in the camera's face. But I'll tell you what, through some polarized sunglasses and with a nice wide brim hat, this is an incredible view. It is just absolutely stunning. So I really hope you get to see it. Well, this sign is definitely reassuring us that we are indeed on the right path, which is great, which is really, really great. What's not great is that there's more of this gravel, so it is what it is. I actually just saw a car drive down from the top of that service road or whatever. So, I mean, the flip side of the gravel, although slippery, I suppose, is that vehicles can get to you if you need something, like being rescued, which hopefully don't. But anyway, sun is out, and once again, there's just a beautiful view of some peaks there in the distance, and we are slowly but surely making our way. Nice thing too is that there's a bit of flat ground and even a little bit of descent right now, just to recover some heart rate, because it has pretty much been non-stop climbing up to this point, and this point being actually exactly 5 kilometers since the parking lot in Brent Alm in Ehrwald. So yeah, I'm not a super athlete or even an athlete by any stretch of the imagination, but I am active quite often in the mountains, hiking, biking, etc. So that was challenging though. That last stretch especially was a bit of a challenging climb. And let's look at the GPS. So far we've climbed about 760 meters in elevation over the course of 5 kilometers. So that's decently steep. It's not the worst. I'm sure there's much more challenging stuff out there, but let's face it, if you're watching this, you're probably not a super expert alpinist anyway. So I think for people like us, amateurs and hobbyists and other enjoyers of nature that aren't professionals, that's kind of steep. So we are about 7K in. Feels like a lot longer because it's been pretty steep. Let's see, 1,000 meters of climbing so far. Actually 1,100, scratch that. So we're about halfway done with the climbing, at least. Distance, got a bit more. We're a little bit less than halfway done with the distance, but sun's out, air's fresh, sky looks clear, which was honestly one of my only concerns coming into the day. Make sure you don't get caught in a thunderstorm or something like that. Just look at that. That is absolutely gorgeous. About 4.5 hours, still to Zugspitze. Let's see if we can beat that. It's 9:30 right now, so timestamp it. Let's see if we can beat that. So here's the route. It looks beautiful, honestly. Every time you turn a corner here, it's like, holy cow, just view after amazing view, and it just does not begin to disappoint, which I'm really excited about. My trekking poles are really coming in handy here, by the way. This is what I was saying on the descents. I could be a good videographer right now and not use them for the sake of the prettiness of the video, but I also kind of want to focus on how helpful they are for sections like this, because when I was not recording earlier, there was once or twice where I slipped on this, there we go, see what I mean? On this nasty gravel. I didn't even do that on purpose. Kind of wish I did. But anyway, the sticks, if you hold them out in front of you, kind of like I'm doing, they just stop you, right? And instead of face planting or sliding down even further, you just kind of immediately stop. One trick that I learned probably way later than I have is that when you're descending, your trekking poles should be a little longer than when you are ascending, because there's basically a bit more distance between you and the ground. Whereas when you're ascending, you want them to basically thrust you and push you up, I guess, not pull you up. Oh, maybe both. Anyway, in this case, you just kind of want them to arrest you if you start falling. And one other tip that I learned way too late, which I'm not practicing right now because I'm bad, is when you're going down, especially on steeper surfaces, take your hands out of these wrist straps. All right, because if it's really steep and you start falling like hard, it's much better to lose a trekking pole or to break a trekking pole than to break your wrist, right? So actually I'm going to switch right now because this is kind of in my steepness territory of wrist breaking. So yeah, it's a little thing, and you know, knock on wood, never happened to me to have like a nasty tumble on a steep downslope with trekking poles. But once again, better safe than sorry. It's just not worth it, you know? So I took a little break just then and changed into my approach shoes because it looks like it's starting to get a little spicy. Nothing too bad, but definitely want to have some really hard soles for sections like this. And I don't have my harness on or my Via Ferrata set on just yet. This doesn't look like a section that I would want it on personally, because it's not really going to help much in the case of a fall, to be honest. So I don't have that, but I'm wearing the approach shoes, and I have to say, from personal experience, doing this with the proper shoes is way better and safer. Yeah, with soft soles, everything just kind of bends, and you can't trust your feet, and that is not a situation that you want to be in. So I want to shut up because I'm breathing too hard, and just kind of yeah, keep documenting this climb. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Just a small section, but not too bad. Not very exposed either. It's kind of a tunnel of rock, so yeah, I think for beginners, if you've never done Via Ferrata before, not too bad. So recommend. And now we have a very important moment. We are going to cross back into Germany. This is super cool. Of course, now with the European Union, you can cross almost anywhere. Nobody cares, right? There's no border protection, there's no passport control. Yeah. Wonderful. Oh, this is so exciting. Okay, goodbye Austria. Now we're back home in Germany. Beautiful. All right. So once again in another kind of gravelly, rocky, sloping decline section. And there's just one thing I wanted to point out. It doesn't look too sketchy or anything like that, so I wouldn't worry about that. One thing I wanted to point out though, if you would notice, you might notice by yourselves, but you might not. So I've stowed my trekking poles. Again, personal preference always with these things, but I feel like in situations like this, having your arms free is actually more helpful than using the poles. But everybody's different. I'm just kind of highlighting it out there since I was throwing out pole tips left and right earlier, and I thought I would just kind of let everybody consider that. So coming to a section here, what is it, 10.05 kilometers in, where it's looking, I wouldn't call it spicy, but it's looking a little mild. We can see the markers up there, but here we've got some steep faces on the right hand side, so there's a little bit of exposure. The rock looks good. There's a lot of really nice places to place hands and feet, but at the same time we do have a bit of a drop here, if we can see that pretty well. So just something to be aware of. Just wanted to highlight it again. Whoever's thinking of doing this route, if this is okay for you, then enjoy. But if you think this is a little bit outside your comfort zone, then, well, you know what to do. But I don't think it's too bad, honestly. It actually looks like there's maybe even an easier way to get down there, because that's probably where the path continues. So let's go ahead and try and get to that slope. Kind of use this as a bit of a stone ladder. But again, I think as you can see here, it's actually marked that the trail is here, so this is correct, but that looks a little bit more trodden to me. Anyway, here we go. And we are back to a nice comfortable bit of gravel. So that was it. Again, I wouldn't call it spicy, a little tinge of mild, maybe a little bit of like black pepper, not quite Tabasco sauce. I had a little bit of, just a pinch of black pepper, maybe even paprika. I don't know where I'd classify that, but very doable. Well, final stretch here of the ascent, and looks like a pretty crowded trail. I don't know if you can see that up ahead, but definitely a lot of people out. I know, of course, this is a super popular route, and from what I've heard, most people just kind of do it once and forget it. Probably because of the crowdedness and the gift shoppiness up there, but we'll see. But we're getting close. You can kind of see that little hut there at the top. So we got another scrambly section here. Which I don't really know if there's a best or a worst way to get up there, but that's kind of the fun of scrambling, I guess. All right, I see some trail markers, so we're on the right path. will say though, the view behind me is infinitely cooler than the view in front. So I'll be excited to get to that peak, just to get an even better look at that view. That's just absolutely gorgeous. I love it. Blue skies, sunny day. Could not ask for better weather. Seriously, this is amazing. It's just a gift. I just gotta get through that last steep section to enjoy it, but we're almost there. We got this. All right, this is the last push to the top. It's just really disgusting, terrible, slippery, awful gravel. So I want to film a little bit of it just to get you guys an idea, but I really want to get off as soon as I can. Okay. So the last part here is looking a little mild once again. I wouldn't classify it as spicy, but yeah. So I did put on my harness and I have my Via Ferrata set on. None of this exposure looks like I need it so far, but I've got it on just in case, and I can clip in if I feel the need to. So let's see how we do. So close and close to the top, and we still got these steel cables to help us out. I haven't seen any sections yet that make me feel super exposed, like I should clip in. Yeah, but if you're afraid of heights, this still might be a bit much for you. I don't know. I'll let you folks decide. Unfortunate crossing there. Okay. Not how I would have done this section if I was bolting it, but okay. looks like we're almost there. And some of these last sections are getting spicier and spicier, but I don't know. Doesn't look too bad. Getting close, I can see it. All right, got our first peek of the other side of Zugspitze, and the Münchner house is just right there. Got some more mild terrain to get to it, but basically there. So let's get to it. This is the section that I was seeing in most of the All Trails pictures, which led me to believe that it's the only Via Ferrata section of the hike, but it's not. It's actually a bit longer, which is why I started videoing it as soon as I could, because I wanted to capture as much of it as possible, even though I'm on my last battery. But I thought it is worth documenting, because surprises in the mountains are usually not good, and if you're not prepared, you set yourself up for surprises. So we don't want that. Wherever if you wanna go.